Hey everyone, we're on the home stretch. I'd like to thank everyone who spoke here over the last couple of days. If you've never done a talk before, I encourage you to do so. It's always hard. It gets easier, but it's always hard. Right? As confident as I might seem about what's transpiring, I really just don't know. All I know is things are changing faster than most people are aware of. So it all started right back in Boxing Day. I like to say, I wrote this blog post and I said, we're in an oh fuck moment of time. Like, jeez. Back in Boxing Day. So what happened was the engineering director approached me and said, hey, can you go deep with AI over the Christmas break? I'm like, okay, I've tried it before. Like, back in GPT's 3 days, wasn't that impressed, it did nothing. And I said, hey, can you convert this Rust library over to Haskell? Now, that's probably a weird choice because I wanted something that was true and real rather than regurgitating like a React website. I wanted something that was new. I said, include a comprehensive test suite. And yeah, you should run a build after every change. You need to run builds after every change. So I'm looking at opportunities to loop back the build results back to the LLM. Run some tests after every successful build. And I took my kids down to the local pool. And when I got back, I had a fully functioning audio library in Haskell. Now, Haskell is the worst possible thing to use for audio. But I wanted something that was just not regurgitated knowledge, something that wasn't from GitHub, something that was from Stack Overflow. I wanted some challenge. This thing generated not only the Haskell audio up in functional programming, but also generated the FFI bindings. That's wild over to macOS Core Audio. And my jaw was on the ground. Absolutely on the ground. I'm like, oh, fuck, it's on. Like, it's real. So I authored the blog post and distributed internally within the company saying, folks, it's on. It's now. And that was 7 months ago now. And I conclude that blog post in saying, well, software engineers who haven't adopted or started exploring what's happening are frankly not going to make it. Just not going to make it. Engineering orgs are split between those who have had that moment in time and those who have not. They truly, truly are. So myself, I have a background in developer tools. I've gone through exponential change. I can see where this was going. I could kind of see into the future where this was going. 7 months ago, my coworkers thought I was utterly mad when I said IDEs are dead. IDEs are tech dead. These days, for the last 3 months, I don't use an IDE to type anymore. Right? I just use Super Whisper or Whisperflow and I voice the prompt in 3 or 4 different terminals running concurrently. That's now my norm now. Concurrency is now my norm. And I offered another one. I said, hey, we need better tools. Why is the idea of a singular the norm? Like, if anyone's played World of Warcraft back in the early days, you used to have the notion of multi-boxing. Like, why can't we have multiple running? So I started running Cursor multiple times back then. And I was like, hey, wait a sec. All the tools that we've had haven't really changed since like 1983. Like, haven't changed since Turbo Pascal. Everything's all been designed around the human. What happens if we started to revisit all the historical design decisions from the last 30 years and design for agent first rather than human first? Again, why does an engineer pick only one story? Why is that the norm? Why is that the norm? And I was looking around and I was thinking, wow, my coworkers don't quite see this yet. They don't quite see this. This is back in January. And I was like, whoa. And they're thinking, like, what if I had an AI coworker? Now, my mentor, Annie Betts, I found out now works at Anthropic. She replied back with this. No, fam, what happens if you had 1,000 AI coworkers that went ham on your entire backlog? Oh, God, it's on, right? There's so much capital invested. That's their goals. That's what they're going for. So the tools need to get better. And it seems like our profession is in a bit of a crossroads. It's kind of like an adapt or perish type thing. Like there is change in the winds here. And it didn't take long before founders were saying, I'm no longer hiring junior or even mid-level software engineers. It won't be long until AI is writing most of the code for Gumroad. From there, Shopify said, using AI effectively is no longer optional. No longer optional. It's a baseline expectation for every employee. This is a major shift in how we operate. These mandates are now common in Australia. Not going to be, some of you might see it sooner. It will affect every company in a different way, in a different time, a different pace. This is coming. These mandates, because the founders have found that these tools work. Like the founders speak with the investors speak with investors, board members to board members. They've seen where it's been rolled out. They've seen where it's worked. They've seen where it doesn't work. They're speaking. If you think this is not on like Donkey Kong, stop speaking with other developers. Go up. Break that link. Go speak with the founders, business owners, understand what the dynamics of what's going on. It's on like Donkey Kong right now. So hi, I'm Geoff. I was previously the AI developer productivity lead at Canva. But as of 2 months ago, I'm now in a team of 7 at SourceGraph making AMP code. And AMP code is very similar to Cursor or Claude code in that sense, command line or Visual Studio code. And like as I write a lot of things and I give it away all the way for free because I kind of feel like almost like an ethical thing. Like if all this change is happening and you didn't know it was happening and you got disrupted by it, like I feel kind of bad. But like if the information's there and you're curious, you go learn these things, then you're going to be fine, folks. You're going to be fine. So I publish all my research for free on my website. Now, my co-workers at Canva were like, Geoff, what do you mean in January some of you are not going to make it? What do you mean some of you are not going to make it? So I had to break down your standard performance management curve. So I've represented here as a tier list rather than the typical bell curve for employee performance. You could see someone like Grape up there, a high performer. That's a high performer before AI. The norms are changing. You could be a high performer with AI. You could be a high performer without AI. But what happens when other co-workers start using it? Concurrency becomes the norm, right? So the performance, the definition of what performance changes within these organizations. So this used to be me back in Boxing Day. Tried it in GPT 3 days. Prove it to me it's not hype. It's so easy, and it's a trap for principal engineers to actually think, no, this is all hype. It's all hype. When someone adopts it, they dismiss it, right? It's someone's gaslighting, right? A lot of the research I've been publishing and my thoughts was before I joined a vendor, right? It's only just joined a vendor in the last couple of months. It's on, folks, it's on. It's changing. So it's very easy, if you're not paying attention, when these companies roll out aggressive change management programs and do performance grading within the organization, to end up not at the company. So this maps my personal journey with AI. Up there, you've got prove it to me that this is not hype, it's not good enough. You start experimenting with it, and there's a bit of a chasm. There's a bit of a chasm. Like I'm using AI coding tools and it's helping me, and up there it's like I'm automating my job. And I closed off some of you are not going to make it with the following quote. I suspect there's not going to be a mass amount of layoffs due to AI. Instead, we'll see a natural attrition between those who invest in themselves right now and those who don't. That's simple, folks. Because I'd like to see 2024 and 2025. There's a distinct rift that formed here in knowledge since Boxing Day and now. I'll get into it. But the problem is, a lot of people get stuck here and fear. I know I did. When I speak with other engineers, they get stuck here, they get paralyzed. And the more you learn, you actually regress to the middle. Don't worry, when you go on this journey, you will regress to the middle. As you learn more and you see what is possible, you'll regress to the middle. It is wild, folks. So if you're an engineering leader, a people manager, you got to think about how do you do your people management change program. You got to support them. You got to build that bridge. You got to get them across and over and up. Really, really important. If you deploy these tools to 100 engineers, you're probably only going to find 1 or 2 engineers who get it. Only 1 or 2 engineers who truly get it. And it might come from the bottom rungs of a company. It may not come from up high. So when they do, you've got to support them. You've got to think of cohorts. You've got to knowledge, build, people management stuff. It's really important to actually retain them because there are different operators out there doing really unhinged things. Last week, I was speaking with a data engineer, and he's managed to automate classes of activities that within the organization. He's currently up to 20 people who have been essentially their job function and identity has been erased and displaced through automation. Could be as high as 70 in the next 2 months. So this was me back in February, March, when I was understanding what was going on and I was playing with the tools. I remember walking into the office and thinking, wow, I see dead people. Kind of like the Sixth Sense. But not dead, but these people don't know this is on. They don't know that these big changes are coming right now. So I started writing more. One of these things I've been thinking about a lot is the notion of mapping disruptive innovation and change to politics in the sense of the Overton window. So in society, you have what is popular, and you have a window which is popular and policy. And then you've got the extremes out there. And sometimes the window slips. Well, every vendor out there right now is bringing AI into the IDE. The only reason they're doing that, folks, is because it doesn't spook people. But already we're starting to see the window slip. We're already seeing tools outside of the IDE. But there's also unthinkable things happening. So on my YouTube channel, you'll find close to probably 3,000 hours of me just live streaming software development being automated while I'm down at the pub drinking beer or sleeping, right? And so this is 4 agents concurrently going, building software while I'm AFK. If you're not paying attention on social media, you wouldn't know there's a massive community on GitHub and people sharing open source frameworks, how to do this stuff and not. It's on, folks. What you just saw there is the idea of an AI manager, a supervisor or orchestrator of agents. If you think about when you're using Cursor day to day, you're kind of you're down here with a coding agent and you're using Cursor or any one of these tools. You're like, no, that's wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Continually telling it it's wrong. But we're software engineers. We're meant to go up the level of abstraction. Why can't we program? I'm sure when you're saying it's wrong, you're seeing repeating patterns. You're seeing repeating patterns. When you see repeating patterns, you can automate that stuff. That's where AI managers are coming in. That's what we're looking at here, is the notion of I've seen repetition things of failure modes and are programmed to stop against it. It's on. So you've probably heard the word agent a lot, agentic. You're probably sick of it. But one of the most important things you can do, folks, is actually to build one. It's 300 lines of code in a while true loop. It's that simple. It really is that simple. It's probably one of the most important things you do for your personal development this year. Because if I was to ask you, what is a primary key? You should know what a primary key is, right? It's always been a staple interview question. You just got your first job, you sit down, the hiring manager's like, what's a primary key? You're like, oh, that's a primary key. Yet in 2025, we're starting to see the knowledge of not only do you need to know what a primary key is, you also need to be able to explain what an agent is and build one. Last night, Meta has completely rechanged the interview process to allow AI first in coding, and other companies here in Australia have done the same as well. They're looking for this knowledge. Software in our profession has always been a travelator of evolving change. It's kind of like being a DevOps engineer in 2025 without knowing AWS or cloud skills. Like, it moves along. Invest in yourself and learn. Know what a primary key is, know what an agent is. It's really simple. A while true loop. So someone can be really experienced as a software engineer, but it does not mean that they're skilled as a software engineer in 2025 now that AI is here, right? They're still a great software engineer, but they don't have the skills that the founders are now wanting to employ for. And it's happened in the last 6 months. It's happening really fast, folks. And something I've been pondering a lot is LLM outcomes essentially are mirrors of operator skills. You can be a great software engineer, but it's a separate skill to learn how to shape the context window, how to do context management, how all these tools work under the hood. The understanding of this stuff will get you better outcomes. So one of the most pressing issues is, let's say that you're interviewing. How would you find someone who actually knows? How would you find someone that's a skilled operator? So how do we interview going forward? It's a hard problem, folks. There used to be pre-filtering gates, etc. They can all be cheated and bypassed through. In fact, it's not even cheating. It's the new norm, right? It's the new norm. Everything's all changing. And the best way to determine if someone is skilled is just to watch them dance with the LLM. I'll expand on what I mean by dance. If you're watching someone on a screen share and they're productive in the IDE with debugging and running unit tests and running printf statements, what else? You can see if they're productive. You see if they've invested in themselves. You can see the same thing. You can develop a coding rubric based on how they use the LLM as an indicator whether you should fail or progress to the next stage. This now exists at some companies. As an example of a interview phone screen now, if you need to do security research, which LLM would you use? Well, the answer is Grok. Grok is low safety. If you need to do security research, it's not going to get in your way. It's going to let you do it. If you needed to summarize a document or work with data, which LLM would you use? Well, the answer is Gemini or O3. Right? Each one of these LLMs have particular properties. Like cars, you have an off-road car, you have a people transit car, you have different things, different properties. Most people just look at these as if on the idea of the context window size and the cost. No, that's wrong. You have different types of cars for different type of activities, different LLMs for different type of activities. If you needed to do a task runner, an agentic task runner, something that's tool calling, what would you use? Well, the answer to this one is Anthropic. Anthropic is focusing their business model on being a tool calling based agent, for tool calling LLM. So you have these distinct quantities. This is going to be staple knowledge going into interviews. I don't know how fast it's going to happen, but it's already happening at some companies. And it's pretty wild if you didn't know. Now, something I've been thinking about for a very long time, when someone says AI doesn't work for them, what do they mean? What do they mean? From what identity are they coming from? Are they saying it doesn't work in their employer's code base? Are they speaking from the identity of the employer? Or are they coming from the perspective of them, the human who has tried it at home? Now, this really matters. It really matters. I'm always asking, AI's not working, you tried it at home, or are you trying it at work? Because employees trade time and skill for money. Employees trade time and skill for money. AI not working in a code base, the enterprise code base, is not the problem of an employee. It's my problem as a tooling vendor to solve for that company. Now, there was a time that software engineers and infrastructure engineers moved on from the company because they saw the change of tide and the rift between adopting cloud and not adopting cloud. They wanted to get away, they didn't want to be doing ESX anymore because they knew that their skills would become obsolete. They want to upskill and uplevel. So this is going to be a real issue for companies to ensure AI adoption is there to retain talent, but it's also similarly as well for employees who see the changing tides here. So just think, are people putting time in to deliberately play with AI at home without the constraints at work, to upskill and stay relevant to future employers? You see, there is a beauty in AI. There absolutely is a beauty in AI. The way I like to describe it these days is kind of like along the lines of musical instruments. They're kind of like musical instruments. You have different guitars, like you have an electric guitar, you get a banjo, you get a bass. Well, you can apply the same type of analogies to different LLMs for how they sound and how they behave with different interactions. And then the people around me who are getting the most out of AI, they're putting in deliberate practice. They're picking up the guitars, they're giving it a strum, and they're having a play. They're just playing with it, folks. No expectations of outcome, they're just playing with it. The same way a musician would pick up an instrument and go, ding, oh, that's C, right? And they just play. Just absolutely deliberate, intentional practice and play. What I see with software engineers, they're picking up the guitars or the LLMs and expecting it to be magical beans and just work and just to sing musical notes. No, it takes deliberate practice and play to learn the characteristics of each one of the LLMs. It takes time, deliberate time and practice. Software engineers categorically pick up the LLM at first and then they just blame the tool. It's really weird. I've seen this in my circles all the time. So I offered another blog post talking about play, explaining what I mean by play. Last week I was hanging around on Zoom with a friend drinking margaritas. Good old margarita Zooms. He's over in London, I'm in Australia. And we're like a little bit old now, and he's a little bit old. And we're like, hey, we're talking about COBOL. COBOL. Like, anyway, and we were like, next thing you know, we're like, can AI even do COBOL? Can it do COBOL? Is it even training data? Well, it turns out it can. It turns out it can. And next thing you know, we're like, a couple more margaritas, and we're like, ooh, like how is this even possible? So we told it to write a unit test for the COBOL application, and it did it. And we're like, what? How are we unit testing COBOL now? We're like, what is the other possibilities? What can be done? This is what play is. It's the knowing that it does this thing and that thing really well, and that's that knowledge. You combine the possibilities of 2 or 3 things you know that does really well. That's your advantage. That's the play. That's what you need to learn now. How to build an agent and what actually works and when to use certain practices for certain things. You're like, okay, let's take it up a level even further. Let's create a reverse Polish notation calculator in COBOL and use emojis as operators. We're a little bit skunk drunk at this, to say the least. And we're like, emojis as operators. Does COBOL support emojis? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Let's find out. There's one way to find out, folks. Let's just try. Let's just have fun. Let's play. Let's rediscover the joy of play. And it turns out it is possible. COBOL does support emojis. That there, folks, is the world's first reverse Polish notation calculator in COBOL that uses emojis for all the operators. Pick it up and play. You'll discover all these things that is possible. When you learn how to loop back the outputs back on each other, you will just go, ooh, that works, ooh, 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 and you just keep going up in abstraction of things that work. But you won't know unless you play and keep playing. So it's really important to actually do your reps. Like, do your reps, just play with things. Like, make a browser extension that automates something. Understand that it's really, really good at generating SQL statements if you've got a Postgres CLI authenticated for your local database. Don't connect it to your production. Local. Play. It is very, very good, especially if your column names and your schema is really good. It is unhinged level good. I'm not going to say it's great. If you're a specialist in the data domain, you should be able to optimize the query. But if you just want to be like, I got this thing here, I just want that, it will give you the SQL query. It will enumerate through the columns, do the joins, and give you the outcome. It is wild how effective it is. Discover the things it's good at. When you find something it's not good at, remember that, try it again next month when the new model comes out. All these tools is all from the model. There's very minimal that we do as tooling vendors to make this stuff amazing. There's small little things, it is an art, but it's all the models. If you find something that doesn't work, remember it, try again the next month. But also keep finding the things where it does work, because when it starts working, it's always going to work. You go up in the problem domain. So this is where I start looking into closing ponderoos, folks. As much as adopting AI in your organization, everyone's like, AI, it's going to fix everything, fix everything. Actually, removing waste from your organization is going to have the bigger productivity upgrade than AI itself. Reddit is full of discussions where like the developers are no longer the bottleneck, but they didn't hire enough developers, or they don't have enough PMs, or they've got enough PMs and enough product managers, but all the people managers feel overwhelmed for the velocity of status updates. It's really, it will be a mirror of not only the skill of the operator, but also a mirror of waste in your organization. So don't just ram in AI hoping it's going to be amazing. No, it's going to be a mirror showing all the ways that your organization is wasteful, because generation of code is no longer the bottleneck. What is the bottleneck is take and understanding what should be. The old saying is like, ideas are worth nothing. Execution is everything. Execution is everything. What does it mean when you can like literally be on a Zoom call or in a talk and it could be building code while I do this talk? Like if I met multiple times when I'm developing AMP code, I've got like, I'm on a Zoom call with a customer, I have this over here, and I'm like, that's an idea. Let's find out how it goes. The entire notion of like spikes taking weeks or whatever, that's gone now. It's literally just a prompt spoken with a voice to text tool. It's like, let it go. Doesn't mean you're going to ship it. It means that ideas are now execution. This is really, really important. Ideas are now execution. Which also means stories no longer start at 0%, folks. Anyone saying that these tools can do 100% of your work is peddling horseshit. Absolutely. You still need engineers. You're going to need to be able to say whether this stuff works or not. Is it shippable, not shippable? You can get to 70% of the work done. Like, I'm seeing really interesting things happen. You give product managers and salespeople access to GitHub. You give them something like Cursor or some other tool, and they're like, they would sit there on the customer call and like, raise the pull request. If you want an engineer to do something, the best way to nerd snipe them is to say something wrong. They've got this inbuilt tendency to want to correct you and say, no, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. I'm finding sales managers and product managers now nerd sniping. They're doing the 50% type thing and then winging the PR going, yeah, it's 50% done. Probably crap, but you should fix it. You're an engineer now. What's your excuse? Like the entire idea that stories start at 0 is invalidated now. Absolutely invalidated. It's really wild. What is the point of open source and libraries? This is probably a large one to think about. Libraries were built for reusable code for humans. There is a use for it, right? You wouldn't want to rebuild open source software with network effects like pandas, etc., Jupyter notebooks, etc. But you think about every time you've had a bug in open source software, you're like, oh, that maintainer's on leave, they quit, they got rid of the project, and you go through that entire thing, can you merge my pull request, etc. And the people around me who have been really getting into this for the last 6 months, we just vibe code everything we need. Like we might take an open source library and we vendor it, and then we just like evolve it internally within our repo. Like it's easy to have complete control and generate the stuff now, and you're generating it bespoke without the trade-offs that some other person's made and not being beholden to that. So I'm actually seeing open source, if doesn't have network effects, going down. It's easy just to generate itself. This is wild. I think I made the point that software engineers still have a job. They still have a job, folks, but it's really different. Their job is to be a doctor, not a waiter. If you're thinking that you could be a Jira ticket monkey in 2025, 2026, 2027, that's some bad news for you, folks. You've got to go up the value chain. You've got to go up the value chain. Speak with customers. Go up. Understand what's going on. If you're a data engineer, go speak with your founders. Understand what the problems that they have and face. Don't make dashboards. Like, think about how you're going to make it so they could be sitting on the toilet and just like chat GPT, like give you all the marketing and sales data. Figure out how you can make their lives better. Go up the value chain. Don't think about dashboards. Dashboards is over. But it's kind of difficult because the identity functions of what it means to be an engineer have kind of been erased. AI is like this massive erasure device to the identity. Next time you go say hello to an engineer, they're like, oh, hi. They're like, I'm a back-end engineer. Sweet. All right, back-end, front-end, primary identity. And they go, oh, back-end Ruby, back-end .NET, sub-identity. And then when you get into the sub-identities, you get sub-identities. I use VS Code, I use Vim, I use Emacs, right? All that just got erased. It's a really emotional thing to understand that knowledge work, or you spend all this time in specialization, and it's just a prompt away. So perhaps the juniors are going to be the ones who are going to embrace and bring the organizational cultural change within your organization, because they don't have to go through the emotional burden of knowing that their identity has been erased. They have no identity. They're new to the organization. They'll bring the cultural change. But for the engineers who have had their identity erased, it's not just engineers. It's all white collar, right? It's all white collar who's coming in. So it's really, really important to support people through this change as people leaders. I think you probably picked up by now, this is a very, very bad year to be asleep at the wheel for your personal development, especially if you work at a high-performance engineering company. It's not going to happen all at once, but the same way that we had the cloud transition, eventually, if you're a DevOps engineer or a sysadmin, they rebranded to be DevOps engineers. A couple of years in, what's the market for sysadmins now? Everyone's all about the SREs and DevOps now. This is happening. I'd really like you to go forward and do things. Thank you.